Oh, hey, shorties. Good to see you. Who's here? I'm here. Sorry, I'm 1 minute late. You know me. Who have we got? Sarah and Shark and Horror. We've got Adam. Thank you, Adam. James Zell. Zell. That rings a bell to me. It's a familiar name. Where do I know that name from? Frank just said we should call you Jamie, Jim. Sarah, oh, thank you for coming. Ernie Birdie. What else have we got? Oh, you've gone. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Look at me, like I'm official. Look, I've got a shared screen and stuff. So cool. So cool. So first things first, thank you to Aussie Insider for having me with Nurse Kim in her stream just finished. And Melissa Asylum, I accidentally timed out Melissa Asylum for 30 minutes. I was trying to get rid of a troll and instead I timed out Melissa, so I messaged her straight away. But I'm about to play a song that the beautiful and talented and hilarious Melissa Asylum wrote for me. I gave her a few little buzzwords, a few little key phrases I'd like for her to use. She wrote the lyrics herself and then put the lyrics into AI to create 3 different tracks, music tracks. This one is my favorite. So I think we will play it. I think I might mute myself. If there's an echo, we're still working this shit out, yeah? So, and then we'll get into talking to Frank Zell, who you might know and love from the last 3 Friday nights with his amazing brother Jim. We were talking about the BOULDER Syndrome and their research and investigation into the murder of JonBenét Ramsey. But before we do that, let's just have a little bit of and trigger warning, there might be a curse word in here, but it was with my blessing. In fact, it was my suggestion. So let me just see if I can do this because I'm a professional. Let me see. I'll mute myself just in case. Sure.
The United States and Australia are sister lands. All around the globe, we are holding hands. Plymouth Rock to Botany Bay, colonists hope for a better way. Sydney Opera House to Broadway, a testament of who we are today. Those still have rent to pay, we still have rent to pay. Daintree Park to Honolulu, Utah Arches to Uluru, Bourbon Street Jazz to didgeridoos, our kinship is deep and true. This is how we begin to start atoning for our sin by creating new expectations for our blemished nations. The Great Barrier Reef to Grand Canyon, from the Everglades to Billabongs, the Cloud Queen cares about everyone. The roller coaster ride is only just begun. This is her cry, debunk, demystify, destigmatize, uniting USA and us. Uniting USA and us. The world is her battleground, her rubber roller coaster goes around, calling all nations with her horn. She is a shooting star out of Melbourne. Miss Shorty is a shooting star out of Melbourne. Miss Shorty connects and unites, debunking all the lies. She leads us in our fight. She's a fucking delight. Grizzly bears eat hikers who are in a rush, and Aussie dingoes steal babies in the bush. The damn beavers live in the brooks, and so does the weird-ass platypus. From Bondi Beach to Miami, Adelaide Hills to Napa Valley, from Kosciuszko to Colorado snow, Lady Gaga to Kylie Minogue. Miss Shorty connects and unites. Our citizens should be made right. She leads us in our fight. She's a fucking delight. This is her cry. Debunk, demystify, destigmatize, uniting USA and us. Uniting USA and us. The world is her battleground. Her global roller coaster goes around. A shooting star out of Melbourne, calling all nations on her bullhorn.
What do you think, shorties? It's an absolute banger. Trust me, I walk around just singing it all the time. So good. That's my new theme song. Adam and I are going to, and Melissa are going to work out how to get that as a proper. Oh, Kim, hey girl, thank you. Super sticker right off the bat. I love. So that's going to be my proper intro. I'm not going to, it's going to be embedded into the stream, but how cool is it? We'll play it again. Don't you worry. It'll get in your head. I promise you. So, thank you for being here. Thank you to my good friend and, like regular Friday night guy, Frank Zell, for being backstage. Shall we get into it? Let's talk obsession. So, okay, let's bring Frank up and then we'll talk about obsession. Hello, Frank.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. And that's Coops there as your avatar, yes?
That's right, Special Agent Dale Cooper, Coop for short.
Who's beautiful. I'm sure you're more beautiful, but it's such a mystery. I don't even know. We'd have to find out one day, maybe.
Takes after me.
Oh, there you go. Handsome and very regal looking with a tuxedo, yeah. So, oh, look, we got the Quiet Franklies coming in. Dusty Blue, thank you for coming in, gorgeous. Yes. So, yes, we love listening to this guy. Frank's a beaut. Yes. We don't know, Nurse Kim, we don't know whether Frank actually looks like that. Rumors are that he's a human, but we'll see. So, Frank, for the last 3 weeks, you and your brother Jimmy, have been here with me, and we've been talking about. You guys have been telling everybody about your last 27, 28 years of investigating and what you've uncovered in terms of initially the JonBenét Ramsey murder, but very quickly that led to much bigger, broader things in terms of what was going on in the Boulder region. Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Been working that case since December of last few days of December 1996. So I think this year will be the 28th anniversary. So yeah, it's been a long time. And to work a case like this, you have to be obsessive in nature, hence obsession. And that's what we're here to talk about, or at least give my opinions on it and what I've been through over the years.
Yes, because I mean, for me, that was one of the things that became really apparent from very early on in you and I sort of talking behind the scenes was that about how we were going to put together the Boulder Syndrome series, was that clearly this was a lifelong obsession for you, and that given the dark, incredibly dark sort of what you'd uncovered, the research and investigation, what that uncovered, that unless you were obsessed, it would be what many people would have walked away from for even just for self-preservation. So I guess, could you maybe give a brief, it doesn't have to be brief, tell the listeners or the viewers how you got into the case, and how quickly it kind of turned into a compulsion and something you simply couldn't give up.
Well, just for the record, I've worked cases prior to Ramsey, so I started very young doing this type of stuff. So I was around 20 when I started, but I was all over different cases. My first case was the Midwest, and then I just jumped around to other cases around the country. Nothing like Ramsey. They were cases that nobody really knew much about. But then the Ramsey case happened, and we got involved quickly. And the obsession of it, you don't really know what's happening when you first start off, because the first 4 years of that case was a blur, because it was just constant news every day. There was this constant things for us to learn about the town, the different cases in the town. But eventually it starts to consume almost every day. It's your waking thoughts are compromised. And then you start making decisions that aren't in your best interests, because it becomes like a want or a desire, and it overrides your thinking process. So I think for me, that's how I describe it. I did things in the case looking back. I'm like, well, I don't know what I was thinking there. And at the time you're making these decisions, you're blinded to certain dangers. You're blinded to certain risks. And yeah, it consumes you, and it consumes your thoughts every day for years on end. And it wears you down over time.
So yeah, yes, I can imagine. Physically and mentally, yeah, like it manifests in more than just sort of mental exhaustion and time constraints. It's taken a toll on your physical health and wellness. Yes.
Yeah, I had a heart attack a couple of years ago. I was in relatively good shape, but the doctors, other than me smoking a lot at the time, they said the biggest contributor was stress related. So they wanted me to cut down on my stress. And then I obviously can't go into it with my doctor, but there's no relaxation when it comes to this case for me. Never has, because it's like, I'm sure everybody's been through something in their lives, whether it's something good and you're looking forward to it, and it's like, let's say weeks or months ahead, and you think about it every day because you can't wait to experience it. Or it's on the bad side and something terrible has happened and it takes over your thoughts every day. That's what happened to me in this case. It just has taken over my thoughts every single day.
So winding it back to those first few days and weeks, I guess, of your investigation, did that grip, that obsession, take a hold very quickly? And I know you said you weren't aware of perhaps when you're doing certain things now, looking back, you go like, what the heck was I thinking there? Why did I make those choices? But at the time, did you feel like it was spiraling a little bit away from you, out of your sort of control? And did you surrender to that?
I kind of surrendered to it early on. As the years, I always knew that I was obsessed with the case from very early on, but it was something I thought I could control, that I could just, because I have an ability to compartmentalize things, I guess is a good way to describe it. And I thought I would have a handle on this, because I've never felt anything like this case. Other cases before it, other cases since this case, but this case is something special. And the other part of it is that for me and my brother, there's another component. And that's when you're connecting the dots in a case, and you're connecting A to B, which is not known yet. And then you uncover B, and then you uncover C, and so on and so forth. And it's only information you know. And on a case like Ramsey, it's so big, we're discovering things that the entire country has no idea. And we're digging up this information. When you're doing that, it's like a drug. I've done a lot of drugs over the years. There is no feeling like that feeling when you connect A to B to C. So that fuels you. And when you combine that with having an obsessive personality and being obsessed about something, yeah, it can turn into something special. But yeah, I would say I gave into it early on.
Yes. So very much like the rush you get from sort of satisfying any addiction. So But did it leave you feeling? So when you were connecting those dots, and particularly, I guess, in the early days, making those connections through your investigation, were you chasing the facts and the information, or were you chasing that high, do you think?
That's a good question. I think I was chasing the facts, but I enjoy the rush. So it goes hand in hand. So it actually helps me to be, I guess, a better investigator, because that satisfaction is waiting if you do it well. So it actually fuels you to make those connections, to work as hard, to, take time off of work if you need to work on the case a little longer. It just all plays in together. It's a very weird dynamic. I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it, just looking back on it, all these years later.
Well, so like we'll go back to it, but fast forward to where you are now, and do you feel like you've untangled yourself a little bit from the obsession? Do you think it's perhaps run its course, or have you just aged into it? How do you feel about it now?
Yeah, it's what happens. That's the question I've been just asking myself and trying to wrap my head around, is what happens when obsession ends? Because obsession usually doesn't end well, because I'm not stalking, a woman. I'm not obsessed about a woman, or I'm not obsessed about something else. I'm obsessed about a case, a town, getting to the truth of things. And now we're almost 28 years into this case, and now it's just in the last couple of years, it's dawning on me for the first time that I may not be able to do it. And that's when I'm talking about how obsession can blind you. I never doubted for 25, 26 years of this case that I couldn't solve it. It never entered my head at any point. I always knew I was going to do it. And now it's starting, it's dawning on me that it's not going to be the ending I thought it was going to have. I'm not going to achieve the goals that I wanted. And it's very difficult. It's like coming off a drug. It's like a withdrawal, and it's a mental withdrawal, knowing that the investigative part of this case that has pretty much consumed my life for the last 28 years, is that part of it is winding down. And now I'm in this kind of, situation where I'm on your show. We did True Crime Garage. So I had to pivot and try to put my energies in now just putting the information out there. And that's going to be the end, hopefully.
So do you think you're grieving the end of an era, as well as the fact that that's not what you expected the outcome would be?
Yeah, it's like a loss. I'm losing people too. I have a close set of friends. I don't make friends throughout life. I haven't done it. I've had the friends I've grown up with. I have acquaintances with people I've met in my life. And then there's the people involved in the Ramsey case.
And then there's us here, but yes, no, carry on, sorry.
But I'm just, in regards to the case, now I'm losing them. So not only was it, we were battling the Boulder Police Department, we were battling the district attorney's office, we're encountering bad men who were trying to hide secrets, you're battling that. And then you start battling Father Time, Lou's dead. Ollie's dead. Steve Miles, one of my best sources, just passed away 2 years ago. And you just start rapidly. So it's a loss from that standpoint, which makes you sad. But then, like you said, yeah, it's a grieving process that this is winding down. It's very depressing. There's days I don't like to get out of bed. It's just a very oppressive feeling that I'm just trying to shake off.
Yes. Okay. So we've let's go back into more the intricacies maybe of how, sort of on a daily basis, How did you manage this obsession, which was separate to, and you had to basically, you had to feel your addiction and your obsession of this case and investigating everything that you did with balancing work, life, relationships with people. How did you go about doing that, and how did you go about doing that?
Okay, so let's see. When I started the case, I was already working for UPS. I was a driver and a full-time clerk there. And when you're able to schedule, I tried to always do my schedule or pick assignments. I worked as an on-site clerk at one of their, at another company, a client at UPS. So I was able to pick my schedule. For me, Boulder was always a nighttime thing because of the time difference. I always, did most of my work from 6 p.m. to, into the wee hours. So I would always pick a time frame that I could fit Ramsey in. But then I got hurt at UPS and I had to find other jobs afterwards. But I turned jobs down, good jobs down, because it didn't coincide with my Ramsey schedule. At the time, it made sense to do that. I need to work Ramsey at night. I need to talk to certain people at night. I can't take a good job that's going to lead to, financial well-being and have, a retirement down the line because it's going to interfere with Ramsey. That's the obsession. And it was constant choices like that over the years.
People had been wondering where Jamie was, why he isn't here talking about this alongside you. And you and I had discussed that. I guess that I didn't even ask Jim, but is it a fact that you kind of let this run your life more than Jim did, and can you attribute that to perhaps something in your twin brother personalities? How did that work?
Well, I think for my brother, I want to answer for my brother, as
just from your perspective. Yeah,
this is my perspective. That break that he took during the Ramsey case served him very well. He took several years off, but once again, he made the smart choices. He did missionary work with his church. He wanted to have a family. He wanted to concentrate on his marriage. Those are the normal things you do. So he said, okay, I'm taking a break from all this and I'm going to focus on life. So I think that served him well. And that's why it's not really as much of an issue for him as it is for me.
So I guess my question then, to elaborate on that, is as because you guys aren't just brothers, you're twin brothers and you're identical twin brothers. So there's you guys are basically you're the same. I know you're not, but so what do you think it is in you? I know you can't speak for Jim, given that you're so, like, your DNA is the same. Yeah, isn't that how twins go? So yeah. It's wild to me that your path through this was to sort of jump in and swim with the flow, whereas Jim sort of had some sort of more control over it. Is that something in life that he was more cautious than you, or you were more? Well, you're older, aren't you? By like 2 minutes.
3 minutes.
Three.
But I'm not bragging, but I am the older brother. That's a good question. I think I have an obsessive personality by nature. I don't like to give in to things. I don't like change that much. I'm not a fan of change. When I set goals for myself, I really hate to fail. That's a big thing with me. I don't like to let myself down or others down. So in that regard, for this case, that was a big deal for me. And I made promises early on in this case to certain people that I wish I didn't do. Looking back on it, I promised people things. I said, Give me your information, tell me your horror stories, and I will achieve you justice. I promise I'll get this story out. And then to fail them in the process as they died off. Oh, yeah.
So on that note, because that's obviously you're quite hard on yourself about this, because I can guarantee you that everybody in the chat now and everybody listening on replay would see what you've done, you and Jim together, and then you both separately, independently, as being quite the opposite of failing or letting anybody down. Did you feel like that along the way, or has it just been that as you've come up to this end point, what it ostensibly seems to be, that you're looking back going, I didn't fulfill it?
That's a good question. So from that aspect, I get hit from both ends, because I've had that failure feeling that during the process. Like, for example, I tell you, I think we mentioned in part 3 or part 2 about, for example, this one attorney in the town of Boulder who was running, who was having these sex rings in his house for 20 years prior to the murder. I had to get those kids to talk. And, I had so many names, and I eventually got 8 to 9 to talk. And, to go forward with it if I could get somebody to help. And the whole promise of that was I promised them. I said, look, I'm not writing a book. I'm not a reporter. If you share with me what happened, I promise you, I'm going to get this in the right hands. And this guy and the men that did this to you when you were younger, there'll be justice done. What they did to you was wrong. So I developed a relationship with these people over a period of time. And then when when it all kind of fell apart, when Lou told me that, to back off of it, to, forget about this guy because he was protected by the Boulder Police Department for the 20 years he was doing things to kids, and then have to break that news to those people that shared that information with me. And I kept trying. I said, well, we'll go about it another way. We'll go, I'll get a reporter to do an expose on what happened, and then to fail in that. And then within 3 years, lose all those people to suicides, drug overdoses, alcoholism. They all died. So I feel a little guilty in that, especially one of them who committed suicide, because I always felt that I may have pushed him too far. I've always felt guilty about that. He was my best witness, but I pushed him greatly, and I always will feel guilty. And then the second half of it, so I felt failure for those kids, making them a promise I couldn't keep. And now I'm failing myself at the end of the day because I couldn't solve it. So.
Do you think that your perspective on that is intertwined with the effect that this investigation and this obsession resulting from the investigation has had on your mental health?
Yeah. It's worn me down greatly. I'm not the same person I was when I started. That's for sure. Mentally, I just feel old. In my mind, it's taken a toll mentally on me, and physically. You throw the heart attack in there. Yeah. So I'm angry in a way. I'm glad it's such a weird feeling. It's like all these different feelings that are almost contradictive. I wish I never got started on it, but yet it was such a tremendous ride, and the people I met and the things we did and worked on. Like, if I didn't work this case, I never would have met Steven Singular or Lee Hill or Ali or Lou or Stephen Miles. These are people, I'm still in touch with Lee. So that's a friendship we've had since I first called him on the phone in the year 2000. It's been 24 years. So while the case angers me, frustrates me, it makes me wish I didn't get involved, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of happy I did it.
Well, there's not many people in life who can say that in their lives they've had such an important, such a purpose and a drive. Most people kind of meander and amble through life, just kind of paying their bills and doing what they do. And, they have, exciting milestones along the way, and also, some tragedies and triumphs, but not many people can sort of stake a flag in the ground and say, this is what I've done with my life so far. Your life isn't over, young man.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I mean, I guess you're right. It's been a crazy adventure, but it's an adventure, but it's an adventure that took its toll on me. So it's really hard to describe the obsession part of it and how. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No. Please continue.
Oh no, it was just one of the most tiring things is trying to outthink everybody or come up with a plan, which is what I've been doing since the end of 1996. We're outsiders. We're from New Jersey. We only went to Colorado once in 27 years.
Wow.
It was always about, okay, first roadblock, we're outsiders, and we had to get as close to the case as we could if we wanted to solve it. So how do we do that? So it was always coming up with plans, different ideas. And when you hit one roadblock, then you got to pivot. All right, so let's go to option B. How do we do this? The Boulder police are doing this. How do we counter that? Linwood is defending the Ramseys. You can't sue them. So how do we get around that? How do we reach this source? It was just constant plan making. And it stays in your head all the time. Yeah, there were moments in my life, I go to a ball game. I enjoy the ball game. But during that ball game, Ramsey creeps in. For whatever reason, as soon as my thoughts wander, for I guess most people, your thoughts will go anywhere. For me, it's always this case. That's where my thoughts go.
So I know you've mentioned to me, or you mentioned before, about drugs and alcohol along the way. How quickly did you find yourself seeking out substances to help cope? What would you even describe that that sort of seeking out of substances to manage this?
Well, I mean, everybody's different. My mind never stops. It constantly runs. Even sleep is difficult,
It's exhausting.
So you understand, right? So, drugs or alcohol, what does it do? It dulls your mind. And that's, so you use that as a coping mechanism to kind of calm yourself down. So I guess that would be why I probably, especially alcohol.
Self-medicated. But then did you find that in doing so, I guess my question is going to be two-pronged. Did that negatively impact your ability to do the investigation, to keep following things? And did it negatively affect you in terms of how you felt about yourself?
Oh, definitely negative feelings about myself, but never affected the case. I would never allow it to do that. You see.
So it was kind of your focus on the case was laser sharp and absolutely funneled, but then outside of that, you needed to do whatever to help you feel okay about it.
Exactly. Perfectly said. Perfectly said.
Hi, Amy. Amy just came in. Nikki just said, I've got something to help you sleep. No joke, it cured my insomnia. I feel like maybe Nikki's got a punchline for us here. I've started a couple of comments, and I thought maybe people might have questions for you if
Sure.
you're willing. But let me just see if I can find these starred comments. There we go. Look at me working it like I know what I'm doing. Oh, Alison Derek asked before when we're talking about you both being identical twins. Do identical twins have the same fingerprints? Do you know?
That's a good question. I think every fingerprint is unique to the individual. So I think we have separate fingerprints. So
actually, Nurse Kim would be the one. She's in chat now. She would be the one to tell us that, I think. Now, and then Brother Jamie said, I always try to stress to Frank, hang on, let me pull it on the screen. I always try to stress to Frank that our identity is not in the Ramsey case. And I think we might spend a little bit of time on that, because it is very hard to untangle oneself when they put so much of their identity into something external. For me, when I was a competitive bodybuilder for 8 or so years, when I retired from that, I suddenly felt like I didn't have an identity anymore. I was so deeply intertwined in who I was, and it was a tough grieving process. What do you think about that? Because obviously the brother's advice is not necessarily falling on listening ears there.
well, I've been doing it so long that it became my identity. That's, to me, like, this is what I was supposed to be doing on this earth. That's in my mind. This is what I'm thinking. And I acted accordingly. Like, the means justify the ends. No matter what I had to do, I was going to achieve it because this is what I should be doing. Now I'm going through the grieving process. As this winds down, unresolved or not being able to achieve what I wanted to achieve. Yeah. Okay. What now? It's not like I can do what I did again. I'm older now. There's no way I could put the mental strength that I had to put on early in this case and through the case. There's no way I'm like, I'm just going to start on another case. I'll just jump into, Sandra Birchmore or, a case out in Utah County or Karen Reed or Richard Allen, or I can't do it. There's no way I can start over. So yeah, it's like I lost my identity. My brother's right. Yeah.
So you and I mean, you've mentioned to me offline that you feel very much like you need to get, you and Jim together need to share the results of what you found out about the boulder and what you then coined the boulder syndrome, because you feel like you don't want to end up being like one of those many people who, with time or circumstances, no longer are alive on this planet, and you don't want for that to happen to you too, that the secrets go to the grave kind of thing. Do you feel like your identity being so wrapped up in this case, and the case kind of coming to what you feel like is its natural endpoint, do you feel like you've got can you see a future for yourself personally? I'm not talking that you're going to unalive yourself. I just mean, what's your foresight for the rest of your life? Do you have a vision there?
You see, and that's the thing with obsession. I didn't plan that far ahead. I didn't plan for anything other than this case. Like, to me, like, I was going to solve it, and then okay, what happened if I did solve it? It would still be the same ending. Okay, it's over. But I never planned for what's next after this case. Never did. I am learning that now as I go.
It's Frank, that's like me in budgeting. I feel you very deeply, but I think yours is a little bit more serious. And like, oh shit, I didn't plan for this. Okay, what do I do now? So have you got any is it still too soon for you to start to maybe try to work out a where to from here? with your life? And you guys are relocating, yeah? You and your wife are looking to relocate. Yeah. That will help. Have you been where you live now all your life through this time, or mostly?
Oh, okay. So the town I grew up in was West New York. So I've lived within a 6-mile radius of West New York my whole life.
Okay. So then I guess it might make sense that relocating to a whole different place and state potentially might give you like a little bit of a line in the sand for you that this could be what you did and you've got something moving forward. Are you feeling that way at all?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to and plus, it's going to be difficult for me, the move, when we do it, because I don't like change. I'm not a change guy. That's another flaw of mine. Any kind of change, I will try to make it as slow as a process as possible. I don't like abrupt change. It's just in my personality. This is going to be an abrupt change. It's going to happen quick. And then I'm going to be in a weird state, where I'm going to be the funniest talking guy there, with my accent.
Just talk to me, and then I'll be the funniest one. That's fine. I can help regulate that for you, man.
Appreciate it, Lisa. Appreciate it.
So have you got, because that is quite a disruptive, like it's a positive change, but you're already very well aware that it could be stressful and it's going to be way out of your comfort zone. Are you concerned at all that you might be drawn to your old habits in terms of self-medicating and coping strategies, or have you got something else that you now look to instead of substances that help you cope? I know the answer to this, I think, but.
Well, I wasn't always, I'm a Christian man, have been for a long time. Before the age of 30, I was not, and people, when I tell people this story, they're like, you did such good work. You're such a good guy. I'm like, well, you didn't know me before the age of 30. I wasn't the nicest guy in the world, which I did use to my benefit in the Ramsey case. I took certain actions and applied pressure in certain ways that maybe most people wouldn't do. I think we talked about it in the last episode. What did Stephen always called it, heavy-handed methods. But it worked and it was effective. Would I do those same things today? Probably not. I say probably. Depends on what kind of goal I could achieve in the Ramsey case. If it was worth it, I would probably do it. But today, to be honest.
If you're going to be, well, we only do honesty here, so I'm glad you're being honest.
I probably.
Let me see. Has anybody in the chat? Does anybody have any questions for Frank regarding his obsession? Nobody ask him where he's moving to because that's private. But do we have any questions, comments? As we get older, we get softer. Well, we all get softer as we go older. I think most people, that's right, Aussie Insider. That was what I was actually going to ask you, Frank. Do you think it's again, you're kind of aging out of that that tough guy thing? It's too tired to be a tough guy anymore, right?
Yeah, am I as volatile as I was in my 20s and 30s? Yeah, it's just the natural order of things. I'm still kind of like that, but just nowhere near to what I was. But yeah, kind of, like you said, kind of aging out of it. And
like serial killers age out of it too, technically. I'm not. There is no metaphor there. You are not a serial killer. But as we get older, like who's got time to be like a hectic person anymore? Time or energy? Like, ugh, I'm so tired.
That's the great. Obsession. It's mostly it's all downfall, really. There's no real great benefit. It does have its little perks. Like I drive a lot, for example.
And I mean, I don't want to out you here, but I feel like maybe you might vape too.
No,
Never.
I do vape, yes, but like obsession, like
I
let's say
don't.
if you're going on a long drive, for an example, let's say let's say I was going to visit my brother in Tennessee. I can get lost in my thoughts while driving. I can still do it today when I think about the Ramsey case, and I can drive for 4 hours and I won't recall the 4 hour drive. It's like muscle memory. I can get lost in my thoughts about it, Ramsey. So it keeps you company. Obsession also works when things are going bad in your life. Let's say you suffer a tragedy, you lose a family member, or you lose a job, or whatever, one of life's, bad moments happens to you. There's always that obsession. It just taps you on the shoulder. Hey, don't dwell on the bad things. Think about me. I'll take your thoughts away. And you just kind of embrace it and you get lost in it. And it's actually worked during different periods over the last 27 years in that regard. A lot of tragedies. And the Ramsey case was there to take my mind off it. So it did have its benefits.
All right, I've got a few questions here that have come up in the chat now. So let me go. I think I have asked you this before, Frank, but Nurse Kim asks, have you gone to therapy, Frank, and did it help?
Somebody just asked me that question recently. The answer is yes, and the answer it does help. Always helps. I'm a firm believer in talking things out. It does help to talk to people about it. Now, this is a very unique situation. I didn't go to the psychologist for this, but he obviously saw something and he started asking the right questions, which kind of led to this. And then it was all this. So he kind of knew. And with it, it does help. But he also diagnosed me with several different, clinical depression, anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress. If I would have allowed him to medicate the daylights out of me, which I didn't do, I just took the Valium and forego the rest. But yeah, I believe if anybody's ever dealing with something and you have the ability to talk to a psychologist, I would recommend it because I do believe it's very helpful. Or at least reach out to, even if it's not a psychologist, reach out to anyone and talk to them, talk your problems through. It helps.
100%. This isn't a question, but I would like to answer it because Rabbit, one of my beautiful friends, Rabbit, said that you've got the classic gentleman vibes, very classy. I could imagine him calling someone doll. And let me just refer to my most recent message from Frank when I said that I sent him the link for today and he said, "Thank you, doll." So spot on, Rabbit. You got it. Okay, another question. You're such a caricature. I'm joking. You're amazing. What do we got here? Frank, Melissa Asylum. Again, Melissa, I'm so sorry for timing you out in that last chat accident. I'm so glad you're my friend. And Melissa, we played your song at the start and it was a crowd favorite. It's going on the daily playlist, my friend. But Frank, where do you think the line between having a passion and an obsession is? And what tips the scale, in your opinion?
Wow, that's a good question.
She's a good one.
Yeah, so passion and desires, right? Everybody's got them. Everybody has desires, whether it could be what you want to do for a living, your career, to move up the ladder, your family life, desire to be married, anything. Obsession, but see, with a passion, you have your thought process. Your thought process is still working as it is for everybody else. Obsession,
you're in control of it. Yeah, you're in control of it, yeah.
Obsession overrides your thought process. For example, I've never done this. Like I said, my obsession is my case, Boulder, getting to the truth of things. That's the obsession. So that's probably a good thing that it was so large in scope. But take somebody that, I don't know, take a woman that is obsessed with Brad Pitt. You hear of these stories all the time, both females and males. And like, let's say I'm obsessed with Nicole Kidman, the actress, right?
Random, but okay. Are you? Is there something we need to know? Maybe this is your next obsession moving forward, Frank.
I actually just saw her in a movie. That's why she popped into my head.
There you go.
Okay. So we've all seen these cases in the media, right? These people stalk these stars. And in some cases, they go to their house and they enter. But then you hear their reasoning behind it. They never took into account that they don't know the people. They're movie stars. They're just regular people. That they're breaking and entering. That they're going to probably scare the people that they're fixated on. They're going to be arrested. They're going to face multiple charges and most likely go to jail. None of that enters their mindset when they go to the house. In their mind, they're like, wait till they meet me. They're going to love me. We're meant to be. They're going to see it as soon as I arrive there, and we're going to live happily ever after, and we're going to have this great life. That's obsession. What you're fixated on, just it throws all logic out the window. Now, for me, with the Ramsey case, I have plenty of stories, but we'll do this one. I can't mention certain names. So I got tipped off. This is right after working with Lou and being put in touch with Ali Gray. So this is circa around 2003. So I am a little over 6 years into the case. One, I want to make an impression on these two men. So I want to find something that they haven't found. I got tipped off that somebody connected to John may have been involved in the drug world. So I got a name, and that name led to another name. And then I got a third name, and that was the individual that I needed to talk to because he supposedly worked with Mr. X, who was connected to John, and it had something to do about cocaine. So I had to get to the bottom of it. Now, most people would just make phone calls, and that would be it. But this particular gentleman was no longer street level that I needed to talk to. He was now in the drug business, would be considered middle management, dealing with, not your regular amounts of drugs, higher weight. So what I had to do was I pretended to be a businessman. And the story was I was going to arrive in Boulder with 20 people, and we were looking for a certain amount of cocaine for the 10 days that we're going to be there for. And we didn't want to deal with anybody on the street, and I wanted to deal with this particular guy. So what I had to do was I had to front $4,000 to get this guy's number. This guy now in the middle management game. So I send the money to a bunch of drug dealers for a phone number. As I'm dialing this number, that's what it kind of dawned on me at the time. I'm like, what the hell did I just do? Like, what happens if he hangs up on me and that's it? I just wasted $4,000. Just like that. But the phone's ringing. So now I don't even know what to say because now the gig is up. I'm not a businessman. Cocaine was never my drug anyway, but
yeah, neither. Take it or leave it. Exactly. If someone else is paying, Frank, if someone else is paying, but otherwise.
So I have the number, the phone is ringing. It's now dawning on me that if he hangs up, I'm out. I'm not getting the money back anyway. So now I have to tell this drug dealer the truth and hope he doesn't hang up the phone. And I'd say, hey, and he's like, you're the businessman? I'm like, hey, look, I'm not a businessman. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a cop. I'm just looking for information on Mr. X when it comes to cocaine. And for a second there, he was silent, and I thought he was going to hang up the phone. And then he said to me, he's like, so you sent me $4,000 just to have this talk? And I said, yeah. And he goes, how long you been doing this, trying to get in touch with me? And I said, about 2 months. And he's like, well, you could have saved yourself $4,000. You could have hopped on a plane to Colorado, drove into Boulder, and said, where do I get cocaine from? And everybody would have pointed you to Mr. X, because he was Boulder's #1 drug dealer, and everybody knew it. Okay, and that was the phone call. So at least I got this guy saying that it was true. This guy was a coke dealer connected to John. So now I'm feeling all happy and proud. I call Ollie and Lou. I'm like, guys, you're never going to believe it. Mr. X, he's Boulder's biggest coke dealer. And Ollie goes, yeah, good job, Frank. We knew about that. Good work. And he goes, and I was all disappointed that they weren't more impressed. And he's like, you didn't send money out here to get that information, did you? And I said, yeah, I spent about $4,000. That's what I mean. Obsession, like I look back on it and I can't even believe I did it. It didn't achieve anything, but I thought that could be a huge break in the case. So by any means necessary, the means justify the ends. And I would still do something maybe stupid along those lines if I knew it had the promise to end the case the way I wanted it. But that's obsession. All normal thought goes out the window.
So someone made a comment before, and I had started, but then it wasn't a question. So, it was when you were talking about whether you would stick with it and become obsessed or bail on it, and they said that basically many people would have bailed when they weren't making any money out of this investigation. And look at you, not only not making money out of it and making decisions in your real world or in your work life that probably limited your income, but you actually were outlaying big money to further the investigation. That's pretty impressive.
I mean, impressive and stupid. There's a fine line, because overall, that's just one story and one amount of money. If I total it up, I don't even want to think about it, how much I spent I can't, because it'll drive me crazy, especially now that things are winding down. And I look about the things and I think about the things I did and the money I spent. And I'm like, oh, but at the time it made all the sense in the world. As long as it was going to achieve the goal and satisfy and give me a satisfying outcome to this obsession and finish it, then I was going to do what it takes. See, Ollie knew this. He knew this about me, and he knew I would take things as far as I had to take it. And that's why, we had that plan out there in 2016 when we gave the symposium for that money, and we were going to put our plan in place. And he needed guys like me and my brother, guys that could work, and put our talents to use, so to speak, guys who would not, ride that ethic kind of boundary and not be afraid to kind of fall over one way or the other.
It's a bit like with that saying that says, what is it? Oh, geez, now I'm going to stuff it up. Something about obedient women don't make history. It's the same kind of thing. Like, had you just stayed in your lane, you wouldn't have found out what you found out. Sometimes the rules need to be bent, and you need to crash through some societal ceilings to get what you need in life, right?
Yeah, that's the way I always viewed it. If you're going to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs,
I like it. Let me get back to these starred comments because we've got a few more questions. I think we kind of covered this, but Kat, one of my beautiful moderators, asked, Frank, have you thought about how you're going to cope if there is no arrest made? I don't know if there's an if in that sentence. I think I know you've held out hope all these years. So is that's what you're coming to terms with these days, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going through now, is knowing that I'm not going to succeed. This is not going to have the ending I wanted. Anything can happen, but it's starting to dawn on me as I lose my sources to, Steven's gone. That was a huge hit. losing Stephen Miles. Ollie, a terrible blow losing him. Yeah, it's not going to end well. So at the very least, and this is why once again, constantly trying to think what to do. So now it's about, all right, maybe all this time I'm saying, okay, this was my identity. This is what I was supposed to be doing. Apparently, I wasn't the guy to solve it. But maybe if I put the information out there, somebody in their 20s will pick up where me and my brother left off with our information, and they could solve it. That's one. Okay, they're gonna, Boulder, the establishment, the town, the DA's office, the cops, they're gonna ride the string out. They're gonna wait for everybody to die off before certain information comes out. All right, I'll give all my information to a younger generation.
Well, that's what they do in cold cases in police, departments. That sort of the natural attrition of police departments and cold case. The whole thing is to put a fresh set of eyes on it. So that could well be the key. And I guess moving on, why do you feel? Do you feel like it will never be solved, or is this more that you guys have run your course with your investigation, and so it may be solved, but perhaps it needs fresh eyes?
I do not think this case will be solved, especially while certain players are still alive. Patsy's gone. The truth will not come out until John goes. Our man at St. John's goes. So of those 3 names in the poem, 2 are dead. One of them is now older. So that part of it won't come out. And that's the other thing. It's not just passing the information down to a younger generation. I want everybody to know this stuff. I want people to learn, say, look, what you were told about the case was wrong. This was what was going on in the town. This is what it was about. And at least if we get it out there and we do enough shows and maybe we work on a couple of other projects and get the information out in another vehicle of sorts, at least there'll be a record of what we did. It will not have been for nothing. Like, we kept all these secrets for all these years. For what? What's the point? If you don't solve it, then nobody will even know you did anything. So now at least there's going to be a record that people can listen to your show, or they can listen to True Crime Garage, or they can, look at the other project if it comes to fruition down the line, and the information will be there. At least there's a record of it, and at least we got the truth out to the best of our ability.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let me see. What have we got here? Now, this is interesting, and we touched on this last week. I think it was where people were throwing out suggestions of who have you contacted in terms of mainstream media or other people in the world of documentary and filmmaking, and I think Nick Francis, who isn't here today, he's having some time away. Hope you're having a good time, Nick. But Nick suggested Joe Rogan. But then one of my beautiful friends, Gen X, Cara, says that she has a friend who makes documentaries about older crimes. So perhaps I could put you in contact with Cara, Frank, and you could talk, because I think this story needs to be continued to be told in as many arenas as possible, no?
No, absolutely. I'll talk to Cara if she has a friend who makes documentaries. We actually had a contract, me and my brother, with the company, and there was a plan to make a documentary on the Boulder Syndrome. A pitch was created. The company, and we spoke with the president of the company. He was very excited. He was on board with the Boulder Syndrome. He loved it. So it was all positive vibes, and I think they may have pitched it to the wrong individuals, the wrong studios that were more pro-police, but it didn't get picked up. So our contract ended. So that documentary went by the way. I think it would have been good, but So we've tried. I've tried so many media outlets, so many reporters, so many editors, so many authors, every newspaper, every major newspaper in the United States. I've probably tried at one point or another. From the TV side, it's extremely difficult to get those guys. We've always had more success with newspaper reporters because it's in their genes to get to the truth of things. TV guys, they're more about just the narrative of the story that's been there the whole time. They don't want to hear anything different. But I've tried every avenue possible. Just hasn't worked.
So that must be so very frustrating. Like I like to say, pardon my French, but pushing shit uphill. Like you've got important things to tell and important findings and investigating outcomes to share, and to be pushing up against a brick wall must have really been and continue to be really quite the bane of your existence. No?
Yes, it's so incredibly frustrating. I cannot even explain it's like I said, I've had to, and my brother, we've had to come up with plans for so many different things, so many ideas, constantly brainstorming for nonstop for 28 years. And some things we had great success in, but then you hit that roadblock or it falls through. And yeah, that's, I thought we had it with the documentary. We had the contract. It was awesome to sign it. It was a sense like this could be it. All right, we may not solve it, but at least the truth is going to get out there on a huge scale, and I'll take that as a win.
Absolutely. I guess that like maybe your goalposts were never where you thought they were. Perhaps what you've done is your success, and that because teamwork makes the dream work. So it could be that that's what you were here for, even though maybe in your mind it was that to solve it. It could be that you were a part in a bigger thing, No,
I agree with you. Just because in my head I determined that, oh yeah, I'm going to solve this and that's going to be it, and I will achieve that. I thought it was going to be so quick early on. Like I told my brother, we'll be in and out in a year. We'll have it done in a year. This is how I thought, with no hesitation, no doubts. 1 year, we will solve this case.
Famous last words, Frank.
the amount of I don't even know how to describe it. Like the whole country's mystified about this murder. The FBI can't make heads or tails. Every major profiler can't make heads or tails of it. But yet Frank Zell from New Jersey, I was going to solve it.
But you were also, what, 20? The bravado of the young, yeah, from the mouths of babes. We think we're invincible when we're
26 going on 27. But yeah, it was delusions. What's that? Delusions of grandeur. Yeah. Yeah. But part of that is the obsession thing. And it's like, I never doubted it. I never thought I couldn't solve it. And I would talk to people in the media and they're like, and they would, that's why they said, you're freaking crazy. You're insane. How, you have no experience. You're not a cop. You're not even a private investigator. You're a regular guy and you're going to solve it. And I said, yeah. We're right and everybody else is wrong, and that's going to lead to the truth coming out if we can expose it. Most people think we're absolutely insane. So thank you for having me on your show. I do appreciate it. Not many people. The opportunity.
It takes one to know one. I also am considered to be quite crazy quite a lot of the time, and one of the people that think that is also me. So we're in good company. Here's a question. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Lisa Gray asked, wondering if you and Jim, if he and brother had their own lingo when little, like many twins have. Both of my two separate sets of twin cousins did. Did you guys have your own speak?
I don't think we had our own speak. Me and my brother are very close. We've always been very close. So that's been a blessing. Well, for me, hopefully for my brother. But it's like when you're younger, and you go and you stay at your best friend's house, right? You're having a sleepover, you're having a great time, but then you got to come home, and then you'll see your friend next week. When you have a twin, the party never stops. It's like having that best friend sleepover every day of your life. So why we didn't have our own lingo. We've always been like-minded. We like the same things. We everything we think about the same. Whether it be politics, whether it be sports, the cases that we work, we're always in sync. So it's a wonderful thing. It's been a blessing, really.
Can't relate. I'm an only child, but I can imagine it would be amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Nikki said it sounds like it's like your BFF is always around. There you go.
Yeah, you share a room with your with your BFF every day. You wake up to him, you see him when you get home from school. And now my brother lives in a different state, but it drives my wife crazy. I talk to my brother like 10 times a day, every day.
You must have to charge your phone a lot, Frank, because you are on your phone a lot.
Oh, a lot. My brother called me today, 5:30 in the morning, just to see what was going on. Yeah, what's going on is I just woke up. That's what's going on.
You were up already, at least. He knows that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Melissa, I don't know if we should. Anyway, Melissa asked Jim, how scared, Jim, are you? Do you get when Frank says, I can't mention names? I think we'll just pass on that one.
Well played, Melissa. I'm never gonna live that down.
I don't know if she's being ironic or innocent in that question. Anyway, here we go. What do you do to decompress? Nikki asks. What? Yeah.
When I was younger, it was drugs and alcohol. So now I read. I spent. My wife is my anchor. Really, she's the one that grounds me to reality. I didn't get married till much later in life. I was, almost 40. Yeah, and I told her all this stuff early on. If you're gonna marry me, this is what I do. This case will always come ahead of everything, and she's got to see it. But she doesn't like this. She doesn't like the case because of what it does to me, but she understands why I do what I do because I've explained it to her from the beginning. But yeah, she is my anchor to reality, and she helps me. She calms me down. She calms me down. So she helps me decompress.
Does she have any hair left, or has she pulled all her hair out because of you over the years, Frank?
She's probably ripped all of mine out.
Ooh, spicy. What else have we got here? Well, there was a few more things that I saw when I started. Let me just scroll this up. MZ, I don't know how to say it, MZ Gags asks, has Frank ever reached out to any of the Ramseys directly, asked them to read the info?
Okay, so I've always I didn't have that many boundaries in this case. Any boundaries I did set, I usually crossed in one form or another. But with John and Patsy, I said, okay, I'm never going to bother them. They're grieving the loss of their daughter. Whether they were involved or not, they didn't kill their kid. But even if they were involved, the price they paid was losing their daughter. That's a terrible thing. And I said, I'll never bother them. I'll never call him. I'll never email him. But as the years went on, when Ali died, for example, in 2017, he had files, boxes and boxes of files. And a lot of my work was in these files, at least 14 years of it. And when he passed away, his wife didn't know what to do with the files. So she sent them to the person that hired Ali. And that was John Ramsey. So John knows exactly what I think about the case and about his possible involvement in it. And we've still had communications. It's not personal. I'm not mad at John Ramsey. I was never mad at Patsy. And we can have emails. Even though I think the way I think, it isn't, this is business. It's not personal between us both. So
That's
yeah.
interesting. Can you elaborate on that? That's really interesting to me, because given your passion/obsession into this whole thing and what you uncovered and your very strong belief, evidence-based belief that the Ramsey, John and Patsy Ramsey, weren't directly responsible for her death, but that something that they were involved in contributed to her death, how have you not got any anger or hatred towards them?
All right. Well, that's a little bit of a longer answer. Okay. So during the 90s, I worked other cases, real bad cases, much worse than this, a case like this. The cases that I got to see it up close and personal, and got to see things. That's when my anger at the pedophile was legendary. And I would take let's say a hands-on approach to things when I was younger, because I didn't really care. I was like a judge and jury type of guy. If you hurt a kid, you got everything coming your way. That's the way I looked at it when I was younger. But as I got older, especially after I became a Christian, I used to work at my church. And when I first got hired there, they told me one of my jobs was going to be to work and clean up after a group of sex offenders, several pedophiles in the group. And I was going to get to clean up after them, cater to whatever they needed, because they were in a counseling thing. And I told the maintenance guy, the head of maintenance, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. I am not going to cater to any pedophile that's, in some self-help group. And he was like, well, if you want the job, you have to do it. So I did it. And then I got to talk to him. In every case, pedophiles aren't born. They're made. Even like my guy in the church, who I am determined to out at any cost. Something happened to him to make him do what he did starting at the age of 16. I call it monsters making monsters. It's like the Ballard case, for example, is another sad example of it. There was a good chance, probably over 60%, that those kids that we wanted to get the story out and get information out about the Ballard case and find out more about it because, the case wasn't handled correctly. There's a good chance that at least 2 of those kids became pedophiles because of the abuse suffered. So if we were to keep on continuing digging into Ballard, you would eventually be chasing 2 of the victims because they would now be offenders. That's how pedophilia works. No matter who the pedophile is, no matter how horrific the crime, that's what I've learned as I got older, that something happened to them. They weren't born this way. Somebody committed a terrible evil to them and turned them into the monster they now are. So it's almost like a pity, and it removes some of that anger that I had in my 20s where I would do, almost anything when I was younger. So that was a good thing. That's one good thing I learned over the years.
Were there any Nikki asked if there were any cases that we might know of that you had sort of looked into before JonBenét Ramsey?
No, I don't. There's a lot of the case. Well, Franklin, that was the very first case that we got involved in. And that's a pretty big case in the child sex ring aspect of true crime. Most people old enough, they know the Franklin case. They know about Alicia and Paul and Troy and John DeCamp and Gary Caradori and everybody else involved. It was a much bigger case that had a lot to do in Omaha and it had a lot to do in Washington, D.C. So they would know that one. And then a lot of other cases had to do with, a lot of black kids, a lot of Spanish kids that don't get media coverage. Put it this way, if the Ramsey case happened the exact same way in the projects in Detroit, you never would have heard about it. Ever. Same circumstances. Pretty young girl, successful parents or somewhat successful parents. You never would have heard about it if it was a black kid in the projects or in a bad area of Detroit or a Spanish kid in, New Mexico. So I would work cases like that.
Jeepers. Nikki asked, did Jim help Frank find Christianity? Jim mentioned last week that he's a minister. Am I right?
Oh yeah, my brother. My brother is big in his church. He's preached on Sundays, filling in for his pastor on occasion. Does a fine job. No, I believe we both came to Christ different ways. For my brother, it was one way. For me, it was, I always call it, coming to God via the back door. And it was everything I was doing up to that point with these cases and seeing the incredible amount of evil that's done. And that I said, there has to be a flip side to this. Mm. There's got to be a flip side. Everything has a, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think. Anyway, if there's evil, there has to be good. And
darkness, light. Yes. Or yes. The balance of the universe.
Just started researching different things, and then I started reading the Bible on my own, and then everything clicked.
How did that make you feel in terms of your obsession? Did it like untangle, so like loosen some of that feeling of obsession, or just was it a substitute for the drinking and the drugs, or was it adjacent? Were they all happening at the same time?
So I became a Christian at 30. So I'm 4 years into Ramsey at this point. And then I'm thinking, all right, I'm a Christian man. This is now now it's not like this is my identity. This is what God wants me to do. So it's not even me working the case anymore. This is a quest for me. This is my calling. God put me on this earth to do this case. That was my mindset. And now here we are, going on year 28. And now it's like, well, maybe it wasn't God's plan for me to solve the Ramsey case. Maybe it's God's plan for some kid who's 19 years old right now, and he's going to solve it when he's 30, long after I'm gone. And maybe my role was just to get certain information out there and for somebody to use that information to solve it. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was God's plan. So that's how the Christianity aspect tied into it.
Yes. I think I know the answer to this one, but do they dress the same? Do you and Jim dress the same? Do you have a same look, even though you're identical?
When we were younger, when we were kids, we dressed exactly the same. to the point where, yeah, my mom, she made a change to that. Yeah, now
Could
I'm
she
sorry.
tell you apart? Was it because she couldn't tell you apart if you were dressed identical also, or you've got a little bit of a difference, right?
She thought like we were just so close and we did so much, we did everything together that she said, okay, I got to break these guys up. So when we left Catholic school and we went to public school for the first time in the 6th grade, she went to the principal and said, I need you to put Frank in one class and Jim in a totally separate class so that they won't be together all day. And that was the start of our separation process, you know. But yeah, only when we were younger. Today, my brother, I would say my brother's a better dresser than I am. I wear the same outfit I've been wearing since I was like in high school: boots, jeans, t-shirts. That's me. I'm a boots and jeans guy.
And sometimes the occasional cropped 80s shirt, right?
Rocking it.
Oh, here's another fun question. I don't know if it's fun. Maybe it's very serious. My friend Hate Corruption asked, Shorty, can you ask him if he knows anyone from the Jersey Housewives, please? I think.
Do I know anyone from the Jersey Housewives? No, I do not. No, I do not.
That could be your new mission, your new obsession, Frank. I think we're onto something here. Maybe you could.
Oh, you don't want me stalking the Housewives of New Jersey. I don't think that will end well for me.
I mean, nobody knows what you look like, so you could be the perfect person for this.
That's true. We're still a mystery. One of these days, we'll put our faces out there. I mean, at this point, you know, maybe the next one. We'll see.
Has anybody got any other questions for our man, Frank, friend of the channel? Benny Politan. What do I see here? Wait, what? Benny Politan is from West Orange. Better luck asking him if he knows them. Okay, well, I think I know somebody in the chat that knows Vinny, so maybe they can ask him for us. I think. No. So,
So what are we going to do now? Now that we've done 3 parts of Ramsey, we've now done my kind of like my thought processes on the case with the obsession episode, and then our Fridays may be coming to an end. I don't know where to go after that.
This is not happening. Already we've got to do the audio books. Frank's going to read audio books and poems for us. And I think everyone in the chat can agree that this is what this voice needs to do next, because it's a voice and a half. Did you watch detective shows as a kid?
Oh, yeah. I'm a big believer in, I'm a big movie buff. Certain TV shows, but it's got to be, you know, up my alley, so to speak. Art imitates life. I've used TV shows in my investigation in the Ramsey case.
Yes.
You know, True Detective. Don't know if you saw the first season. I'm sure people in the chat have seen it.
I think we've established I don't watch shows, Frank, but
Right.
Yes, I know I'm supposed to. Goodness.
But that, for example, True Detective, the creator of that show, that was based on a case in Louisiana. It was called the La Monica case. And in 2005, I was using the La Monica case as a teaching tool for Ollie and Lou to talk about the spread of pedophilia in a community and how it can spread. And in True Detective, that was a big part of the plot line in the show in 2013. Somebody asked a question. What does that say?
Can you ask Frank which conspiracy theory pisses him off most, re the Ramseys, and how he would recommend we shut that shit down? Thanks, Dad. That's Oblivia Benson. I think you'd really appreciate her channel, Frank, although she curses a lot. I know you're a man that doesn't swear, but anyway, yes.
It's all right. If people curse, it doesn't bother me. But, yeah, Burke did it. You know, a good way to solve it? Think it through. Why would the parents do it? If, let's say, Burke, okay, hit her with a golf club. All you have to do is just think rationally about the situation. All right. So to protect their son, who's 9 and may have killed his sister, even if he did, he's not going to jail. He's 9 years old. He would have just been sent to a psychiatrist. John and Patsy Ramsey would not have had to spend untold millions on attorneys. And that would have been the end of it. It's just, I cannot wrap my head around people who say Burke did it. And then you think the parents then garroted their child in a cover-up to make it look like it wasn't Burke and it was an intruder. So they garroted their dead child and then molested their dead child with a paintbrush. I mean, just think it through. It's total silliness. I don't know when that started. It started years ago, and it's now like considered a popular theory, and it's nonsense. That drives me crazy.
I know, Frank, in some, I haven't had many sort of trolley or comments in the videos of the first 3 episodes in the series, but where people are trying to come at with you with paragraphs and paragraphs of, this is why the X, Y, and Z did at Burke, or the parents or whatever. And realistically, like you've said to me, if there's no changing that mindset, so just leave those ones go, right?
Yeah, there's no changing them. That's the thing with this case, is that people chose sides, and they shouldn't have chose sides, because now they lock themselves in. They'll never, even if presented with incontrovertible proof or evidence that your theory is wrong, and here it is, I'm going to show you, is all the stuff that says your theory is wrong. No, it's not. That's their response. Like John Mark Carr, for example. There's people that think John Mark Carr is the killer. I can tell you for a fact that he isn't, and I've told these people this. I had his writings months before he was arrested. Ali never thought he was the killer. I tracked him through Europe. He was arrested in Thailand. It was a scam. The whole John Mark Carr thing, I'm sure. Do you remember that when that broke in 2006? Do you remember that? Was that a big thing in Australia? No? Okay. Well, it was a big thing in this country. In the good old US of A, it was huge. Every news station. And there are people that swear that John Mark Carr killed JonBenét Ramsey, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And really what happened was John Mark Carr got in trouble in Thailand, and to get him out of that situation, they used the Ramsey case to get him out of the trial in Thailand, because that was the only way that the Thailand government would let him off the hook, was if he was accused of a murder in another country.
Actually, I think I do remember a little bit about that. It is coming back to me a little bit, but yes.
Yeah.
Everybody's remembering it, so yes, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen people that was one of the craziest things, that they made such a big deal about it in the news. It was nonstop coverage. But like Ali knew that what they were doing was wrong. I knew what they were doing was wrong. And then Keenan arrests him when he comes to Boulder. We all know behind the scenes that he's not going to match, and he doesn't. And then he still has a pending case in California for child pornography, and they lose the evidence. And just like that, John Mark Carr gets off the hook on the Thailand arrest, his California case, and Ramsey, because Ramsey was a ruse. They used the Ramsey case to get John Mark Carr out of Thailand. And there's some certain information on why they didn't want him testifying in that trial in Thailand. But, the CIA was there trying to get him out. The DIA, Homeland Security. Who was this guy? I remember Ali telling me that, before the news broke, that every 3-letter agency was in Thailand trying to get this guy out of Thailand. What does the CIA have to do with the Ramsey case? You tell me. I don't know. All I know is they got him back to the United States. They did a sham arrest, set him free, and then California loses the evidence in their case, and this guy's a free dude. Anyway.
Oblivious Dad, if you've got the time, go back and watch episode 1, 2, and 3. I've got a playlist called JonBenét Ramsey, the Boulder Syndrome, and Frank and his twin brother Jim. We spent a good almost probably 6 hours going through the process, because Oblivious Benson says, God, what I would give to see a documentary with Frank explaining this process, because so few people discuss it. So glad you did today, FFS.
I hope someday that we do get an opportunity. I still think it would be a great documentary. Don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe. We'll see.
We'll rally the troops, Frank. We'll make it happen. Big things come. From little things, big things grow. Nikki McLaren suggests that maybe next we should do a musical episode. Can you sing?
No. I'm not the singer. No.
I can sing. All right. I don't know how to say that. MZ Gags asked, do you think one person murdered JonBenét or more than one?
More than one. This is why I believe the DNA that they built the profile on is commingled, not just with JonBenét's blood, but with the blood of others. This is why people are just waiting on a DNA hit. That's never going to happen. And then never mind the touch DNA. Touch DNA can be explained away in some circumstances. But now, the touch DNA is it's found on the garrote, paintbrush, under her fingernails, different articles of clothing. It's all over. So I think it's like 5 different people, 4 males and 1 female, from what I've heard.
So how do you figure the mechanics of that, the logistics of that, all inside? I mean, it's a gigantic house, all inside that house, or do you think they whisked her away out of the house and brought her back there? Do you have theories on that?
Well, I mean, everybody always asks me this question. The people that were involved with the documentary we were working on, their executives wanted, it all came down to it. Tell us how it happened. And I tell everybody, me and my brother, we weren't there and we're not the killers. So we don't know exactly how it played out. But if I had to speculate, probably went something like this. John and Patsy went to the white party.
Oh.
I believe that they allowed their daughter to go with other people to another place. Maybe not the whites. Maybe they left the whites and took her somewhere else. Something goes wrong. She's killed. They bring her back to the whites, give her back to John and Patsy. They can't go to the cops because they're involved in this, because they allowed somebody to do something to their daughter. They weren't expecting this, but something else. And then, like the poem says, clues brought home sleep prone. She was brought home dead by John. They place her, they bring her back to the house. They carry her home dead. And then the cover up ensues. I don't think they ever went to sleep. This is why Patsy was still in her clothes and makeup from the night before. Mm-hmm. Possibly maybe others came over to help set things up. And then they call the cops. And the rest is history. And then next thing you know, Arndt's getting, being made the fall guy of sorts by the department by not sending help over. So that's how I think it happened.
I think Hate Corruption asks, what do you mean they allowed someone to hurt her? I think if you go back and watch episodes 1, 2, and 3, if you haven't already, the Boulder Syndrome, am I right, Frank? It started as your child sex trafficking ring theory, yes?
Yeah, it was our theory of the case was the child sex ring theory, which pretty much John and Patsy Ramsey did not kill their child. We believe this, but they were involved in something which put their daughter in harm's way. She was killed, and because of their involvement, they had to cover up for the killer of their daughter. That's the sex ring theory. That morphed into the Boulder Syndrome. Now, people, when they hear the sex ring theory, it's not part of the narrative. It's not part of the Ramseys did it or it's a lone intruder. Nowadays, it's flipped. Nowadays, the Ramseys are totally innocent, and it has to be an intruder. Our theory differs from that. And that's okay if you think we're wrong, that's fine. But at the end of the day, the grand jury, they believe in us. The grand jury, we came up with that theory in 1997 in January. Excuse me. The grand jury indictments didn't get released till 2013. How could we have been right? The indictments are word for word our sex ring theory in January 97. How is that possible? Once again, you're only left with two possibilities to answer that question. We're psychic, which we are not, or we were right. Period. The grand jury only agrees with one theory, and that's ours. Nobody else's.
Oblivious, Benson. We haven't. We're actually oblivious. When you go back and watch the other episodes, we really didn't spend any time other than the cursory sort of what the tropes are, or what's out there in mainstream media, and what the general theories are. We just very quickly went through that because they're not really relevant, right, Frank? They've never been relevant to your investigation, because very quickly it became apparent that what happened inside that house, or what was being said happened inside that house on that night, wouldn't be the way to solve this crime.
Correct.
So I don't know if you want to I just don't think you've spent any time at all going into the minutiae of what was the statements of all of those people inside that house on that night. Am I right?
I believe, I don't take Fleet White at his word, because I think he's an unreliable narrator. I don't believe John and Patsy. I believe they are unreliable narrators. Everybody involved is like an unreliable narrator. That's how we've looked at it. That's why this case is not solved. Almost 28 years. You can't, so many things were done wrong. You can only botch a case like this unless you're doing it on purpose. No liver temperature taken. So the only timeline of death for the child is what John and Patsy say happened. They came home at 10. She wasn't in bed when they woke up at 5:55. So the time of death is between 10 and 6, based on the parent's story. Even though, we talked about this in part 1 and part 2. It's not like the cops didn't have a reason to look at the Ramseys. The body's in the house. The ransom note's written on their notepad. It's written with their pen. The person even took the time to write a practice note. The paintbrush to fashion the garrote is Patsy's. So, yeah, it just makes common sense that, we have to look at the parents. But yet, the DNA don't match. So really, our theory just combines the parents did it and the intruder did it. It's a combination of the two, just that they know the intruder.
Frank, I've got an idea for next week, because the crowd is begging for more. What about if we did a debunking and a going through of some of those fallacies or theories, or the things that are actually irrelevant? Maybe not next week, but everybody wants next week, but to maybe go through, for example, because Pierre just asked about the pineapple in the stomach and stuff, and I know you mentioned that to me. Is those things they're minutiae that are actually not really relevant, and they're the red herrings, I think, in what they were the things to muddy the water in terms of throwing all that stuff out there, so people wondering about that and not ever wondering bigger picture.
I don't know if we can get a whole show on it, because when I say me and my brother didn't pay attention to it, we didn't.
But you know all those things, right? So
the basics. But we always call that, we called it getting into the weeds. Once you got into the weeds, you were lost. If you want to focus on the pineapple and you want to focus on what she was wearing, it's all nonsense. It will not lead to an arrest in this case. None of it. None of it. The whole story you've heard for 28 years, you have to forget it and focus on what was going on in the town. And that's the past of Boulder is the answer for what happened in the Ramsey case. That's what we believe. And like we mentioned in part 1, we said if we always kept digging, we would come up with a separate incident, a separate case, different from Ramsey, that would involve Ramsey players in it. We found that case. It took us forever to find it. And that's the church. Okay, look. And then once you take our, Mr. X from the church, look who was there that morning. John and Patsy, St. John's. John and Barb Fernie, St. John's. Reverend Hoverstock, St. John's. JonBenét, St. John's. The pediatrician who drugged Patsy at John Fernie's house, St. John's. There's this huge St. John's thing.
Can we maybe go into that next week and
Sure.
do, because that would be very interesting, because I know, and again, Nick Francis isn't here today, but he was very sort of vocal about that. There's so often in particularly in child pedophilia stuff, the rings, whatever you call it these days, CSAM, all of that stuff. So often the church is linked, and I think we kind of, for the sake of time, we did kind of skim over that. So maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can do that. We think St. John's Church is the answer to this case. Blow open the scandal at St. John's, and you'll figure out the murder of JonBenét. That's what we believe.
Okay, so we're doing that next week, Frank.
Woohoo!
You're not getting away that easily. Let me just make sure I've got, because I'm going to have to wrap it up soon, because I've got another stream scheduled after this.
No worries.
Apparently, I'm the YouTube workhorse on the weekends. I think
I can't believe we got 2 hours out of this. That flew.
You can talk. I can talk. I think there was never going to be any issue that we would talk, particularly throwing it out to the crowd to chat. All right. Any final questions, anybody? Breaking news. Yes, Adam just said breaking news. Frank is back next week to talk St. John's. Yes.
Woohoo!
I knew I'd find a hook somewhere, and I've hooked him.
We'll talk about St. John's. St. John's indeed.
And we'll get Jim back in if he's available. Yes.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely ask him. We definitely bring him in.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Frank. You don't see the chat, I don't think, but chat was really, really loving, particularly your Quite Frankly crew. Really, really enjoying knowing more about you beyond what the fruits of your investigation over the years. And I said to you offline that for me, that's the super interesting stuff, knowing the devil, the demons, the man, just everything behind what you deliver to us in terms of your fact finding. So I really appreciate you being so frank with us. And I know chat does too. You see what I did there?
Yes, I did.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you, Frank, and your profile pic, Coops. Hey. One day maybe you could bring Coops on screen for a live. You could just like lean out and hold the cat in the screen.
I can work on that.
Lovely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Frank. I will talk to you and we'll set up a time, but let's just say 100% Friday night, 9 p.m. It's the Zell's back. The whole band will be back together next week, and we can talk about stuff, the St. John's stuff. Yes.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you as always, Lisa, for letting me talk. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
My very pleasure. Always a pleasure. You're a good man. Thank you, Frank. I'm going to go out with Melissa Asylum's song again. So if anybody wants to listen to the best song ever written, it's coming. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye.
Oh, sorry, Frank. I'm a professional. All right. What do we got, shorties? Let's do this. I have to start it from the start. We will listen to this because it's the best song ever. And I want you to go and subscribe to Militia Asylum. Her channel is, I'll link it in the description box. Look at me. This. And coming back here, I'm going to go mute myself and say thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for being here again. Love you all. Love your faces. And we're going to love this song. It's just it's a given. And if you want to come with me and spend some time doing trial prep for the Donna Adelson trial, which starts Monday, voir dire, jury selection, I'll be going again in about 10 minutes tops. So let's listen to this amazing song. I'm going to mute myself. I might even remove myself from stage. Love your faces. Thanks, mods. Thanks, chat. Thanks, quite frankly's. Let's
The United States and Australia are sister lands. All around the globe, we are holding hands. Plymouth Rock to Botany Bay, colonists hope for a better way. Sydney Opera House to Broadway, a testament of who we are today. Those still have rent to pay, we still have rent to pay. Daintree Park to Honolulu, Utah Arches to Uluru, Bourbon Street Jazz to didgeridoos, our kinship is deep and true. This is how we begin to start atoning for our sin by creating new expectations for our blemished nations. The Great Barrier Reef to Grand Canyon, from the Everglades to Billabongs, the Cloud Queen cares about everyone. The roller coaster ride is only just begun. This is her cry, debunk, demystify, destigmatize, uniting USA and us. Uniting USA and us. The world is her battleground, her verbal roller coaster goes around, calling all nations with her horn. She is a shooting star out of Melbourne. Miss Shorty is a shooting star out of Melbourne. Shorty connects and unites, debunking all the lies. She leads us in our fight. She's a fucking delight. Grizzly bears eat hikers who are in a rush, and Aussie dingoes steal babies in the bush. The damn beavers live in the brooks, and so does the weird-ass platypus. From Bondi Beach to Miami, Adelaide Hills to Napa Valley, from Kosciuszko to Colorado snow, Lady Gaga to Kylie Minogue. Miss Shorty connects and unites, our citizens should be made right. She leads us in our fight, she's a fucking delight. This is her cry, debunk, demystify, destigmatize, uniting USA and us. Uniting USA and us.